I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, but I'm jealous of my son's girlfriend, Sophia. She's lovely, exactly the kind of girl he should be with. Yet every time I see them together, I know it's wrong. I know I can't let myself get angry again, but the idea of losing him hurts more than I can admit. Adam isn't just my son anymore. That's the problem. And I hate myself for letting things get to this point. At first, I didn't want this to happen. It was just emotional. He made me feel wanted. I let myself need him in a way a mother shouldn't, and now I can't even look at myself without feeling disgusted. I've ruined everything. I've ruined us, and I don't know how to fix it. Before I start, I want to say this isn't an easy story for me to tell. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and honestly, I'm scared to say it, but I know I'm not the only one who's been stuck in an impossible place, torn between guilt and desire, love and shame. Maybe, just maybe someone out there needs to hear this. Maybe someone needs to know this isn't just about me, but for anyone who might need it. Because sometimes, hearing someone else's truth can help us face our own. Now, I want to tell you everything I didn't plan to, how I leaned on Adam in a way I shouldn't have. After the divorce, everything in my life fell apart. I spent years trying to make my marriage work. I begged, pleaded, and compromised more than I should have, only to watch my husband walk away like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. I thought I was prepared. I told myself I'd be fine on my own. But the silence in the house, the emptiness, broke me. Adam saw it. He saw how lost I was. He didn't talk much, but he stayed close, and I leaned on him. Maybe too much. He wasn't a boy anymore. He was a strong, protective man. He picked up where his father left off. He did repairs, helped pay the bills, made sure I was okay, and I let him. I told myself he was just being a good son, but honestly, I needed him. I needed someone to make me feel okay. It started with small things. Dinners together because I didn't want to eat alone, movie nights on the couch because the silence was unbearable. At first, it was normal, even comforting, but at some point, it changed. I started dressing up more, just to be around him. I told myself it was to feel better, like everyone says after a breakup, put yourself together. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about me. It was about him. I caught myself watching him differently, noticing how he moved, how he smiled. I hated myself for it. I told myself I was just lonely, that it was harmless, but it wasn't, and I knew it. I don't even know when it started to feel different. Maybe it was the way he hugged me a little longer than usual, or how he touched my arm when I was upset, letting his hand linger a second too long. I told myself it meant nothing. I needed comfort, and he gave it to me. That's what family does. But even as I said it, I knew I was lying to myself. The first time it happened, we were watching a movie. He put his arm around me, and I leaned into him. It should have been innocent, but my heart was racing. I don't know if he noticed, but I did. I didn't pull away. I hated myself for it, but at the same time, I didn't want it to stop. After that, things kept going. Hugs that lasted too long, sitting too close on the couch. He'd brush my hair from my face and tell me I was beautiful when I was down. I clung to those moments. They made me feel alive. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself he didn't mean it that way, that he was just taking care of me like any son would. But the way he looked at me sometimes, it wasn't how a son looks at his mother. And I didn't stop it. Maybe I wanted him to look at me like that. I don't know. All I know is I let it happen. There was one night, etched in my memory. I was crying over my ex again, feeling utterly worthless. Adam held me. He kept saying I deserved better, that I was amazing, that any man would be lucky to have me. And then he said something that should have stopped there, but it didn't. He looked at me, and I don't know who moved first, him or me. But before I knew it, we were there, and I didn't stop it. Even now, I can't explain it. It wasn't just attraction. It was the secrecy, the intensity, the forbidden nature of it that made it harder to resist. After, I couldn't even look at myself. I wanted to take it back, but at the same time, I didn't. And that scared me more than anything. I'd love to say it was just that one time, that we stopped before it went too far. But we didn't. I don't even remember how it happened the first time. It was blurry, like I wasn't in control of myself. One moment we were talking, and the next, we were all over each other. I remember how gentle he was, so careful, like he was afraid I'd break. For the first time in years, I didn't feel broken. I should have walked away. I should have told him to stop, but I didn't. I couldn't. I wanted it. God help me, I wanted it to... We didn't talk about it afterward. We just sat there, staring at each other, both too scared to speak. I waited for him to say something, to say it was a mistake, that it couldn't happen again. But he didn't, and neither did I. The guilt hit me almost immediately, like a heavy weight in my chest that wouldn't go away. I cried in the shower that night, scrubbing my skin until it was raw, but no amount of soap could make me feel clean. I told myself it was over, that it had to be, but the next time, I didn't stop him. And the time after that, I wanted it even more. I started craving him, craving the way he made me feel wanted, like a drug. I was completely addicted. The secrecy made it worse. Every stolen glance, every whispered word, every time we had to hide, it made it more real, more thrilling, but also more dangerous. There were moments in the middle of it all where I'd catch myself thinking, what am I doing? This is my son. But those thoughts were always drowned out by the rush of being wanted. When it was over, the guilt would hit again. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what was wrong with me, if I was completely broken. I started avoiding mirrors. I couldn't bear to look at the woman staring back at me, the woman who let this happen, who let it happen again and again. I wanted to stop. I told myself over and over that I would, but then he'd smile at me, brush my hair back or touch my arm, and I'd fall right back into it. It wasn't just the physical part, though that was bad enough. It was the emotional connection that scared me the most. I needed him. I hated myself for it. I started lying to myself, saying maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed, that maybe we were just two people who loved each other too much. It couldn't be wrong, could it? But deep down, I knew better. I started having nightmares where people found out. Family, friends. I imagined their faces, the things they'd say. Worse, I imagined losing him forever. The fear of losing him trapped me, but the need to keep him close did too. I couldn't let him go, and that scared me more than anything. When Adam first told me about Sophia, I smiled and told him how happy I was for him. That's what I was supposed to say, right? I'm his mother. I should be happy. But deep down, it felt like my heart was being ripped out. He described her like she was perfect. Her smile, her laugh, the way she made him feel. All I could think was that's how he used to talk about me. The first time I met her, I hated her instantly. Not because she did anything wrong. She was polite, sweet, everything you'd want for your son. But when I saw him hold her hand, the way he looked at her like she was his world, it felt like she was sitting in my place at the dinner table, right next to me. When she laughed at his jokes, I wanted to scream. That was my thing, laughing at his jokes, sitting next to him, my time with him. I know it sounds insane to compete with my son's girlfriend. What kind of person does that? But I did, and it was eating me alive. I started noticing everything. The way he leaned toward her when he spoke, how his hand always found hers, how his eyes lit up when she smiled. I memorized their schedule, when she'd come over, when he'd go out. I'd wait for him to come home just to see how happy he looked, even though it killed me. One night, it still burned in my memory. I heard them in the living room, laughing about something. Their laughter was loud, carefree, and I couldn't stand it. I stayed in my room, clutching my pillow, tears streaming down my face. I told myself it was just jealousy, that it would pass. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. It wasn't just about losing his attention. It was about losing him. She was taking him from me in a way I couldn't face. That thought terrified me. But the worst part wasn't how I felt about her. It was how I started to see myself. Every time I saw her, I was overwhelmed by this wave of anger. She didn't deserve my resentment. She was kind to me, respectful, even tried to include me in their conversations. Yet I couldn't help wishing she'd disappear. There were moments I thought about confronting Adam, asking why he needed her when he had me, but I stopped myself. Even I knew how crazy that sounded. Instead, I started avoiding being in the same room as her. I'd make excuses to leave when she came over. I thought if I put distance between us, it would go away. But it didn't. I kept replaying everything in my head, the way she looked at him, the way he smiled at her. It was like she was living the life I thought I had with him. The more I tried to ignore it, the more it consumed me. I hated her for making me this way. But more than that, I hated myself. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to let go, and every day, it felt like I was losing him a little more. I stopped sleeping. Every night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every moment. I swore I'd never let it happen again. I told myself it wasn't that bad, that maybe we could go back to how things were before Sophia. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. Nothing would ever be the same. He started acting differently. At first, I thought I was imagining it. He was still sweet, still called to check on me, still hugged me when he walked through the door. But something was off. He stopped lingering after dinner. He started spending more time out of the house. When we were alone, there was a tension, like we were both afraid to stay in the same room too long. I asked him once if something was wrong. He looked at me for a long time like he was searching for what to say, then shook his head and said everything was fine. But I knew it wasn't. I could see it slipping away. I could see us slipping away, and the worst part was, I couldn't even blame him. I wanted to believe he didn't regret it like I did, but I saw it in his eyes. The guilt, the confusion, maybe even resentment. And it destroyed me. I thought about what would happen if Sophia took him, or if someone else, friends, family, found out. I imagined being hated, judged, ruined because of me. It made me sick. What about me, my life, my reputation? Everything could collapse in an instant. There were nights I thought about telling him we had to stop, that we couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. But then I'd look at him, and the fear of losing him completely stopped me. What if stopping meant losing him forever? I started imagining the worst, that he'd hate me, cut me out of his life, never forgive me for my part in this. Even if I deserved it, that thought still terrified me. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let him go, but I couldn't keep living like this either. I was scared. I was desperately clinging to something I knew was already broken. I stopped answering friends' calls. I stopped going out unless I had to. I didn't want to see anyone answer questions or fake a smile. My whole world revolved around this impossible situation, and I didn't know how to fix it. Then there were the dreams. Dreams where everything came out, where people screamed at me, called me disgusting. It made me feel worse than I already did. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing, telling myself it was just a nightmare, but it was too real, too close. I kept thinking, what if I've already ruined him? What if he can't come back from this? No matter how many times I tried to push those thoughts away, They kept coming back. I wanted to stop. I wanted to take it all back, but I didn't know how. The more I tried, the more I lost myself. I knew it had to end. I told myself 1,000 times I couldn't keep going, but saying it and doing it were two different things. I tried pulling away, creating space between us. I'd tell Adam I was busy when he wanted to spend time with me. I forced myself to smile and be polite when Sophia was around, even though it felt like I was being torn apart inside. But it wasn't enough. No matter how much distance I tried to create, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I wondered if he missed me as much. I wondered if he felt the same guilt eating him alive. I wondered if he regretted anything, or if he still wanted it. There were moments I was on the verge of giving in, thinking about running to him and saying I didn't care what anyone thought, that I couldn't let him go. But then the guilt would hit again, and I'd feel like the worst person in the world. I started looking for help, but I was too scared to go to someone I knew. What if they found out? What if they told someone? I couldn't take that risk. So I turned to strangers. I joined anonymous online forums where people could confess the worst things they'd done and ask for advice. I poured my heart out to complete strangers, people who didn't know me, couldn't judge me, couldn't hold it against me. Some told me to confess everything, to be honest and face the consequences. Others said I should bury it, act like nothing happened, and focus on rebuilding a normal relationship with Adam. Then there were those who called me a monster, said I was irredeemable. Those hurt the most because deep down, I believed they were right. I even considered therapy. But how do you sit in a room, look someone in the eye, and tell them you're in the worst place imaginable? How do you trust someone not to see you as disgusting and broken? I wasn't ready for that. The thing is, none of the advice I got felt like enough. It was either too harsh or too easy. Like people didn't understand how complicated it all was, how Adam had become my everything. That's why I'm here, still talking, still asking for help. I can't do this alone anymore. I need to know what you think. What would you do in my place? How do I let him go without losing him completely? How do I fix what's already broken? I've tried telling myself time will make it easier, that if I keep my distance and act normal, things will eventually go back to normal. But what if they don't? What if this has already damaged us both in ways we can't undo? I know I have to let him go. I know I have to give Sophia the place she deserves in his life. But even saying it, part of me is terrified of losing him. I'm scared I'll never be able to fix the mess I've made. I don't have the answers. So I'm asking, what would you do? What would you say if we were sitting face to face right now? Should I tell him everything and risk losing him completely? Or should I keep pretending, smiling, and hope we can both move forward without falling apart? I know I've made huge mistakes, but I want to fix them. I just don't know how. No matter how many times I replay it all in my head, I keep coming back to the same question. Can forgiveness be real if you can't even forgive yourself? I don't have all the answers. Maybe I never will. But what I do know is I can't let my mistakes define me.